welcome to Concert Pipeline. That's Jens Schippel.
That is Steve Jones.
And Jens, today on the program, we have a guest who's been on the program before. It's been a couple years, but we have him back. It's Mr. Jim McCarty from the Yardbirds. So really excited about this chat.
That's awesome. Welcome. The Yardbirds, that is a blast from the past, man.
Yes. A Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inducted band, of course. And
fantastic.
Legend precedes him. And they've had, a number of incredible guitarists in that band. I mean, are you familiar with some of the guitarists who have passed through the Yardbirds at different times?
I was at one time, although can't really bring anything up, but I know there's some big names.
Jeff Beck, Jimmy Page, and Eric Clapton.
I was going to say Eric Clapton.
Yes.
And now I'm remembering we recently had this conversation about some big names that went through the Yardbirds. I mean, holy shit.
Right. So there's been one staple in the Yardbirds throughout their career. Other artists have, musicians have come and gone and contributed in different fashions, but Jim McCarty been there since the beginning and has a number of stories to tell. He also has a new book that came out called She Walks in Beauty. It's an interesting story, really kind of laced with kind of spirituality and how would you describe it? Kind of, I don't know how to describe it. What am I missing? I'm missing words. It's like
it's like an experience.
There you go. It's so his wife died in I think it was about a year and a half ago in 2020, and he wrote this book afterwards, and it's kind of him kind of going through the experience of losing her and kind of seeing her and kind of feeling her presence in different capacities is a way I'd put it. So
that's powerful. Yeah.
Yes. So we'll bring Jim in just a little bit, but it's been a little while since we've caught up, and the only way we catch up yet is on the pod. So
seriously, yeah, we spend more time interacting through the pod than we actually do in real life.
That's a problem. We need to work on that. So
yeah, seriously.
But you have a story to start us out, huh?
Yeah, it's not, not a big, huge story. It's one of those unexpected things, that happens when you own a home. And, people say things like, oh, you've really got to buy a house because it's a great investment. And, you buy it, you get a good price, and hopefully, you sit on it and everything appreciates. And then you've got, a nice, big, huge chunk of change, if you can eventually pay it off, that might help you into retirement and all this stuff, or it might help you buy another house. But dude, the people that say that, they don't really tell you what the reality of the situation is like in terms of all the crazy expenses that go into buying a home. Now, I'm not talking about like buying a brand new house. That's a different story. But if you want to live in a particular area, sometimes you just don't have a lot of choice, right? You got to buy a house that's 10 years old, 20 years old, 30 years old, whatever.
Remind me, so you've lived in your house, I want to say like 6 years. And how old is your house?
This house was built in 86, I think.
Okay. And is my 6-year estimate about right?
I think it's been more like 8 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's been like 8 or 9 years in this house. And this house has had some peculiar issues. Some of them, like I said before, unexpected, things happen that you normally wouldn't ever dream of, happening to a house or just dealing with it. So to get right to the point, you and I have been talking a little bit about how I've been working on repairing leaks.
Yes.
So shortly before, we got our first storm, I realized that some of the sprinkler valves were leaking, right? Not the sprinkler heads themselves, but the actual control units that are next to the house that are, you know, wired into your sprinkler controller.
Sure.
And, you know, that happens, whatever. They're the pain to fix, but at least it's all, you know, above ground. And you can just kind of do it without really having to dig a whole lot, you know, or open up walls or, you know, whatever other, you know, rip up a toilet or whatever other plumbing issues people have.
Sure. Yeah, of course. The sprinklers lead to the toilet, it leads to the shower, and, you know,
yeah, right. Right.
You
And you never know, you know, you trust that the pipes are good, you know, I mean, it's an 80s house. So, you know, back then they put in good, the good piping. It's not like pipes made out of lead or, you know, whatever. It should be all copper and sturdy. So then I plugged all I plugged all the sprinklers, you know, up and, you know, tested them. Unfortunately, the storms were coming, you know, and I did a lot of the fixing during while it was raining outside. Some of it was happening at night, you know, and it's like, I just need to get this stuff fixed because I hate paying for stuff that you don't have to pay for, especially when it's like your water bill. You know, if your water bill doesn't have to be that high because you have a leak, you want to get that fixed, because if you don't get that fixed, it's like going to the ATM, you know, and saying, I'm going to withdraw $200, and then you see the
lighting
money
it on
coming out
fire.
in 20s, right? And you grab it and you get your lighter and you freaking light it on fire, and you do that every month. And it's like that with, you know, water or electricity or, you know, whatever else one has to pay for. So we get our electricity bill. It's $280.
Wow. Okay.
Sorry,
yeah,
not electricity. Well, you took water bill. Water
okay,
bill.
Okay.
280. Right. It's just me and my wife and our little dog, and we don't have kids. The sprinklers have been turned off because of the storms for over a month.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck, dude, that's insane. We've never paid that much for water ever. Right. So it turns out, with my amazing investigative skills, I saw near the sprinkler systems, coincidentally, I saw that water was flowing from underneath the concrete where our driveway is. So it there's a little stream of water that comes from underneath the concrete and kind of just pools into where all of the irrigation system is.
And it's been doing that for a month.
And I don't know how long it's been doing it, but it's definitely been doing it for at least a month. And I didn't really know how bad it was, I guess, until we got our electricity bill. Why do I keep on saying that?
Still the water
bill. Maybe I should take a look at our electricity bill too. Maybe that's another
there might
issue.
be something there. There might be something there. Yeah,
there might be something there. So, you know, and I'm like, Jesus Christ. So today I figured out, you know, that obviously the leak is between the shutoff valve for the house, and the meter, you know, like the water meter at the street. So when I turn the main house valve off, so no water is in the house at all, nothing. Flush the toilet once, you know, and then it doesn't refill, you know, that kind of thing.
Sure.
The water's still flowing from underneath the driveway, and the water meter on the road is still going around. So I had the water off in that configuration for an hour, and I took a picture of the meter when it began, and then an hour later when you know, when I stopped recording it. And so I did the calculation, and we're losing a gallon of water an hour.
Wow. Okay.
And this has been going on for at least a month.
No wonder we're in a drought. This explains so much, Jens. I mean, I appreciate your acknowledging this to the Concert Pipeline audience and really just kind of coming clean as to why we're in such a bad drought, because it's been boggling our mind with how much rain we've had, and the drought has just been, we know the stem of it now. And this is, you know,
it is.
You're going to make everybody whole. We appreciate that.
Yeah. Once I get this shit fixed, the drought's going to be over like overnight. It'll be this overnight sensation where everyone's going to be, oh my God, we don't know what happened, but there's no more drought. Our reservoirs are full and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that'd be nice. So I guess what really got my ass going was when I took a look at the last water bill. I never really pay attention to the water bill ever. I just never think that's ever, going to be an issue because we just don't use a lot of water. And there was how they hit, like, for every month they have a graph, right, for the whole year.
Sure.
And every month it shows you what
chart.
your water usage is. And what's really cool is it compares it to what your neighbors, what everyone else in the county is using. And we were significantly higher almost every month for the entire year.
Wow.
So I'm like, shit, how long has this leak been going on?
Did you check back on your bills and how much it's cost and everything?
I've been too scared to like go back and look throughout the years to see how bad this was. I mean, as far as I know, we might have had this leak when we bought the house. It just slowly gets worse and worse and worse. I don't know. I've never noticed the water pooling up like it has before. I mean, that was a thing that I just noticed last month, and it's pretty easy to see kind of when that's happening. But I don't know. I mean, maybe the runoff was going someplace else and it just now accumulated in that area.
So how do you fix it? What's going on?
Yeah. Okay, that's the big story. So how do you fix a leak that's underneath your driveway? So of course, like, I freaked out. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to get a jackhammer. I'm gonna have to like completely demolish the entire driveway and get a shovel and just start digging until I find the pipe and I find the hole.
You wouldn't get a consultation before you get to this point. You're you're going to go out, get the jackhammer, and just start going at it, right?
I'm a DIY guy, right? I like to do it myself, dude. If I can save a few bucks, I'll do that. And then I started thinking about this more and more. I'm like, hell no, there's no way I am going to go and do that. It's impossible. I'm going to spend more money paying chiropractic bills after I'm done with that. So I did some research, found a company with like amazing reviews. And they have the special equipment. And I had no idea this even existed, but I completely nerded out as I was reading about this. So they'll come and they've got the special equipment that detects what's going on behind a wall or underneath concrete or underneath dirt. Yeah. And I don't fully understand how this works, but there's like, they can get a visual, they can get like a,
like X-ray vision.
This technology, kind of like X-ray vision. Like in the military, they've got these headsets or whatever, these goggles, and they can see heat.
Sure.
Yeah. Like behind a wall, they can see three people behind the wall. Yeah, they can see heat or something. It's kind of like that, but it's detecting water. So I don't know if it's detecting like movement, water movement or something. And then there's a sound thing, so they can hear the water trickling, underneath the surface or behind a wall. So basically they come and they locate the leak with their equipment. And then instead of, tearing up the entire driveway, they just tear up a piece of the driveway and then they go in there and then they, fix the leak.
Sounds like a lot more realistic.
Sounds awesome. Yeah. So I was like, oh, that's really cool. I would love to, see them do this. What an experience. But dude, just to have them come over and scan your area and tell you where the leak is and then give you an estimate before they even start fixing it, that's $450.
Wow. So this is not going to be cheap, is what you're saying. But
no.
But it's something you need to do for California. I mean, you owe this to California.
Yeah, right? I know. I owe it to my neighbors. I owe it to California. Exactly. I mean, it's the right thing to do. Plus, when you've got a water leak, you're dealing with water erosion. So who the hell knows, what that water has eroded over time. Yeah. I'm hoping there isn't like a big cave down there. Like, wow, cool. There's like a cave down there with stalactites and stalagmites, and that's really awesome. So anyway, that's kind of my big thing that I'm dealing with this week. It's like a WTF homeowners moment. So for anyone that's passionate about buying a house, just know that weird shit is going to happen.
You're talking about present party included, like
weird shit's going to happen, and it's going to happen before Christmas. And that new thing that you wanted to buy yourself, forget it. Budget is going to go right to bullshit.
I feel you. Yeah, I'll keep it short so we can bring Jim on in. But yes,
Right on.
I am roughly in the market of home ownership finally. Like it's been a long time coming, but been talking to my kids' mom and stepdad, who want us to live in the same town, and so we're coming to an agreement about a location. And me being the person that I am, just like, I mean, I'm embracing it as a change. I'm not excited about it. I like where I live. I love living in Napa, and and I've lived in this house for almost 8 years, and I've never lived anywhere near that long, in any sense, right? So
Right.
this is as close to home as anything that I've ever lived in, even though it's not my house. If that makes
Right.
sense. So
Yeah. But Napa's your home.
yeah, but I'm also, I'm being open to the change and to being able to afford buying a home and the changes that come along with that. And I don't know. I've been talking to, of course, talking to different people, talking to my buddy Joe, but talked to my dad about it today. He recommends I wait until the other party involved buys their home first and not rush into it, like kind of like I
That's
am.
smart.
That
Yeah.
he thinks I'm putting the cart before the horse, which I actually kind of have been. I found a home that I really like and like checks all the boxes. Just when I found it and everything, and it's like, ooh, this is nice, and it's a new home. Is built in 2018, and it has
Nice.
solar that's
Oh,
paid off,
sweet.
and
I was going to
and
ask you, I was going to tell you, I forgot to tell you last time we talked about this, is if you can target houses that came with the solar built in.
yeah, I mean, so it's pretty nice, and it's on the higher end of my budget, but it's doable. And so I'm like, ooh, I should, I'm getting kind of a little bit excited, but then I also need to take his advice and just chill out. There will be other homes, and I don't want to be dealing with getting my kids. I'm not taking my kids from school in the middle of the year or anything like that. And while their
Yeah.
mom offered to drive them to school, every day, they could for the rest of the year if needed, just to make this change. I don't need to put that on her. I could just be patient and wait and continue to save money. So,
Right.
That's my home ownership story.
Yay! Well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Is it? Was this house in an area in a development that also had other houses that solar?
They all. I mean, not all the houses had solar on it, from what I could tell. A lot of them, I think, look pretty new. So I'd have to explore the area and everything. It won't be there when I'm when I'm ready next year to buy or what have you. So, but
that's the thing about buying houses in California. The market is so quick. It's like as soon as you see something that you're interested in, you have got to go all in immediately.
We won't be there in 2 weeks. Yeah.
To see if you can get, because if you think about it overnight, it might not be there next day.
Yeah, but
it's totally stressful.
I will continue provide updates, but I think this one might be tabled for a little bit, and I'm not going to tempt myself by continuing to overly look at the sites or anything like that, because there are a lot of other variables that just need to fall into place before I buy I don't need to be the first to buy the home. It wasn't even my idea, right? So
right, exactly. So well, good for you for looking and getting a feel for what's out there.
Well, thank you. Well, let's go ahead and bring in our guest now. Like I said, this is Jim from the Yardbirds. We had a great chat. I really enjoyed our time together. And here is our interview. Jim, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It's nice to chat with you. Thank you for taking the time.
I thought it was going to be the other Steve Jones.
Yeah, you're not the first. Did you really though? Did you? I'm a little bit younger, but but we have similar, hobbies, professions, whatever you call it, So.
Last time I saw him, he was down in Hollywood.
Oh yeah, he's not in England now, huh?
No, he had a show in Jones's
jukebox. Yeah. I didn't realize he was doing that out here on the West Coast here. So okay, that's interesting. Have you hung out with him? Have you did you cross paths at times? I'm sure at the Sex Pistols.
Really, not at all. No, it was like a different generation, really. You know. But I was going to ask him if he knew JJ from the Stranglers, because I had a play with him the other night.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
had a jam, so that was the two generations playing together.
Yeah, it's funny. I've never actually met the other Steve Jones. You know, I've tried to get that interview, but then I mean, it's a little late now. You know, in terms of the band, I think, and everything. But yeah, I've never crossed paths with him directly, other than the namesake. So
Yeah.
you know, yeah. Well, let's start.
Nice to meet you, anyway.
And nice to meet you. I think we chatted, and it was a phone interview, but like 3 years ago we did a phone interview. I don't expect you to remember anything, but but I remember enjoying our conversation. Yeah. How are you doing? How are you holding up? I mean, there's a lot for us to get into, but I mean, it's been a crazy time for everybody. But I'm interested to hear how you're holding up and how things are in your neck of the woods in France.
Well, I'm in a small village, so it's quite quiet, and there's not really a lot of problems with the virus around here. It's more in the big cities, you know.
Yeah.
So I suppose occasionally they get someone that's got it, but it's not doesn't seem to be a big problem. And of course, we haven't played for a long time, so we were going to be coming in October, just gone, and that got cancelled. So it'll be in April now. Those dates are put back till April.
Yeah. So you haven't played any shows since COVID hit, almost 2 years ago now?
I think the last show was I think February last year. We played in Seattle, and I came back from Seattle to Paris. That was the last time. Yeah.
How was that experience?
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, it was fine. We did a cruise, I think, and then we did a few dates. Not many dates. We just played Portland and Seattle and maybe somewhere else. We didn't do a lot of dates, but yeah, we've got another cruise coming up in March, the Flower Power Cruise, which is always good fun. We've done that twice before.
Tell me about the experience of playing a cruise like that. What is that like for you? I mean, it's like, imagine a week full of music and debauchery and everything. I've never been on a music cruise yet.
Well, it's really good fun because the people all dress up. They go into the Flower Power thing, and we're only usually on for half a week, so we're on 3 or 4 days, and we don't really get bored. And I think usually we only play once and then do a Q&A another day, and that's it. So it's quite nice. It's quite relaxing, and they pay as well. They're getting, it's very popular, and they've got very high prices. So yeah, it's good. It's a good show.
Yeah. Well, so let's start with She Walks in Beauty. I had a chance to read that, and I want to know kind of where it started for you. Where within the book, you kind of break down a little bit about your wife speaking to you, about writing and that sort of thing. But where did that kind of outlet come from to put all that together?
Well, I think we were in the lockdown, and she was looked after in the house. She had cancer, and she died. She died in the house, and it was a pretty traumatic thing for me. It was probably one of the worst days ever. And then I just wanted to try and establish what had happened to her, because we were so close. And I thought, well, she can't just disappear. She must be somewhere or other. And a couple of people I knew had said they dreamt about her and they saw her in dreams. And then someone near here, I think I told it in the book, someone that worked in a cafe quite close to where we live. She saw her walking after she'd died with me, and I was in tears, and she was quite happy. So I thought, oh, well, she must be around. So I was very determined, and I studied, near-death experiences, and on the YouTube, and people like Evan Alexander, who had a big near-death experience, who was a brain surgeon. So, he was a good person to speak about it, because he was basically brain dead when he had it. And then got in touch with various mediums, one of whom was Suzanne Giesman, who was an officer in the US Navy. And then she lost her daughter in Iraq. She was struck by lightning.
Yeah.
So decided to be a medium then, and she studied in England. And then she, became quite a famous medium now. And I did one of her courses. So I learned all the ways of connecting, what to do, the procedure, and it seemed to work. So I seemed to get some good evidence, because Suzanne always said, oh, well, you need evidence, that you're actually communicating. You need to know things that you wouldn't normally know from the person. So little facts come in, and she tells you things. I mean, she told me quite a long time ago, probably at the beginning of, quite near the beginning of the year. She just came up. I heard her say Charlie Watts, and so I thought, Charlie Watts. What about him, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, what's going to happen to him? Because he seems fine. And then a few months later, he died. So I thought, well, that was a good sign, And a lot of the other things in the book, if you read it,
Did you know Charlie? You have some stories, about the Stones and everything. Like, did you know Charlie Watts?
Well, yes, not very well, but we did used to play with the Stones, and we went to see them as well. And we did a tour once with the Stones in England. But I didn't know him well, but he was always very, very nice guy to talk to, very, very modest, a real gentleman. Yeah. And I was quite surprised when he died, because I didn't know there was anything wrong with him.
Yeah, you thought they live on forever, right?
Yeah, I know. I thought, oh yeah, he's going to keep on like the rest of them.
Yeah, yeah. And so kind of back to the book, right? You've been able to kind of feel your wife's presence through different outlets. One, being birds, and and I know that I saw the picture of with the burst in it, where she was like standing. You felt that presence there as well, and and a number of other connections. And so it's kind of, I think, helped you work through through some of this, right?
Yeah, yes, and it helped me a lot with the grief, because it was quite a light experience to connect with her. She always seemed quite happy. She always seems quite happy, and some quite funny things happened. I was boiling an egg one day for breakfast, and it was coming up to 9 o'clock, and I was timing it on the cooker, and it was it said 2 minutes to 9, and then it came up to 9 o'clock, and the cooker went the clock went to 2100.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, that's really weird, because they can they can tamper with electrics, and lights flicker quite a bit. I'm surprised this light behind me is not flickering.
Right. Yeah. One thing I was interested to learn, in the book also, was that you lost your dad at an age, like he died at you were 16 years old, right? When
Yeah.
you lost him. And I'm curious, like, what effect that had on your starting making music and what have you. Like, I mean, did that have any impact at all there?
Yeah, well, my mother and father weren't very happy together. You know, it was a difficult, quite a difficult childhood for me. And my dad used to drink quite a bit. He was in the pub quite a lot, and you know, that's obviously the reason why he died. He probably drank and smoked too much, you know, and he had a heart attack. And actually, you know, oh, hang on, where are you going?
I'm here. Did you get a call or something?
No, I'm just going to decline that. Are you there? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So yeah, I was quite relieved because there was always a terrible atmosphere in my house, you know, between them. So I'm quite relieved in a way. I know it's a horrible thing to say, but he was always quite keen on me playing. You know, he quite liked me playing the drums, and I bought a very cheap drum kit. I think he lent me the money, which was like nothing, you know, £10 or
Yeah.
10 bucks or something, just to get a little drum kit to get started. And that's how I got going. But yeah, and I started around that time, around when I was 16, 17.
Yeah, and the Strollers were your first band, right? Like, you formed them with Paul. Like, tell me a little bit about how that came about.
Yeah, well, Paul Samuel Smith and I were at the same school. We were at a school called Hampton Grammar, and which would be like Hampton High School or whatever. And we always loved sort of early American rock music. You know, the Buddy Holly and the Crickets and the Elvis and Gene Vincent, Johnny Cash. And we formed a band, and we used to play in the school dances in the interval. When, you know, we play all the rock and roll and everyone would go mad and jump around as a break from the waltzes and the foxtrots. So and then we play in local pubs around where we lived. And Paul at that time played a Fender, I think he had a Fender Stratocaster. He played guitar before he went on bass. It was a few years later when he started playing with Keith Ralph that he started on the bass.
Yeah. And did you know then that music was what you wanted to do with your life? Was it pretty clear for you?
Oh, not really, not at all, because you know, we were just messing around. To us, it was just something to have a laugh, you know, something to have fun with, and we didn't know it was going to be a money-making thing at all. When we finally got going with the Yardbirds, I had to give up my job because it was so busy. I couldn't manage, and I worked in the stock exchange with stockbrokers in London. Yeah. And I remember going to my boss and I said, well, you know, I'm in this band at the moment and I can't quite cope with this lifestyle. I said, you know, when the band breaks up in a couple of years, can I have my job back? And he said, yes, of course, come back. You know, he was very understanding, but I never did go back, of course.
No, you committed.
It went onwards and upwards.
Yeah, for sure. And so, so tell me, I mean, I want to talk a little bit about the Rolling Stones as well. You saw like some of their early shows, you know, before they were even, you know, the Rolling Stones as they are now, right? Like, what was that influence like? Did you have any? I mean, I don't expect you to have had a vision that they were going to last indefinitely, you know, but did you feel that presence?
Well,
you know, with
yeah. Paul Samuel Smith again that said, "Oh, you want to come out and see this band, the Rolling Stones? They're playing near us, and they were playing in a place called Richmond that was just a few miles from where we lived." and they were playing in like a funny church hall, and they had a different drummer. It wasn't Charlie at that time. And I just thought, oh, this band are very strange. It's all very strange. I mean, I've never heard this sort of music. It was like a sort of rock. It was like rock music, but it was a bit different. I thought, where does this music come from? It's very interesting. I'd never heard blues music like that before, and they had they had something about them that was very odd and very very strange, but very good as well. And then the next thing we knew, they were playing at this club called the Crawdaddy in Richmond every week. So we used to go and see them there.
Yeah, and you toured with them and Tina Turner, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, but we did get their gig, the Crawdaddy club. They in the end they moved away from the club. They started getting too big for it, and so we replaced them, and we managed to get the gig at the Crawdaddy. So that was something that helped us a lot.
Yeah, and that same year, 1966, you had Jimmy Page played his first show with you guys, right? It was the London's Marquee Club, right? Can you tell me about that experience? And him joining the band?
Yeah, well, what happened was we'd already asked him to join when Eric Clapton left. Because he'd come to see us, and we knew he was a great player, and he was very friendly, very very open to us, and he turned it down because he was very busy doing sessions, playing on records, recorded in London studios, and so he recommended Jeff Beck. Jeff Beck was his friend and a sort of understudy that played sessions when he couldn't do them. So we got Jeff Beck in, and of course Jeff was great, and Jeff had a great variety of styles. He could play all sorts of crazy, lead guitar. And we liked it a lot, and we broadened our sound from just playing blues to playing all sorts of weird and wonderful things, and that was a lot to do with him. And it wasn't until Paul Samwell-Smith decided to leave that Jimmy was asked to join again, and he actually joined as bass player first of all. So he by then he wanted to join the band. He wanted to go out on the road. So he joined on bass, and then Chris Dreyer and him swapped, so that Chris played bass, which was very brave, and Jeff and Jimmy played lead guitars.
Yeah, and I read that you said that the time with Jeff was where the band had the best chemistry, the best dynamic, right?
Yeah, Paul Samwell-Smith and Chris and Jeff, Keith and me. It was a great chemistry and a good team, and we worked well. We worked well in the studio. We wrote good stuff together and had a lot of fun. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. I want to ask about something that you wrote about in your book, and it's something that's always interesting to me. It comes up a lot in my interviews, but it's because I'm such a fan of the Fillmore here in San Francisco, Fillmore West, right? And an experience that you had at the Fillmore. Owsley Stanley III gave you some capsules there, and tell me about the experience. What happened that night at the Fillmore?
Well, he turned up, and he looked like a sort of a biker. He had long greasy hair, and he had a leather jacket on, and we thought, oh, there's a biker coming in, and they said, oh, this is Owsley, or Owsley Stanley as his real name was, who made all the LSD on the West Coast. He was a professor, and he obviously went to all the gigs, and gave the bands handfuls of drugs, whatever they were, LSD, and there were other things, And
so you didn't know.
No, so he gave us some, and I took one, and of course it was a pretty bad experience. And then I got actually quite ill. I went back to England and became quite depressed for a while, and couldn't even play at one time. And then it gradually wore off over a period of time, and took sort of quite a few months, and then I came back.
Yeah, you had to miss part of the tour and everything for that. Did you think you would be back to the band? When you at that point in your life, like you're like, okay, I just need a break, or did you see you needed to take care of yourself? Where were you out there?
I needed to get over it. I knew I was going to get better because I had a pretty good doctor. He knew what happened in these sort of cases. The worst thing is when you don't know what's going on, you feel so awful and you don't understand it. But the doctor said, "Oh, you will get better." And funny, he said to me, actually, in the long term, it will be an advantage to you. So I don't quite know what he meant, but maybe he meant it would be give me a creative insight after going through it,
Yeah, but you got better, and you were able to get back out there and and do what you love, right?
Yeah. And I went to this. I got involved in various healing groups. I was looking for healing, and I got more and more healing, and then that's how I got all that healing and spiritual stuff.
Yeah. Can you tell me about breaking Ringo's breaking his snare drum? What happened? Like you're just banging so hard, you got and how did that conversation go with Ringo? Hey, by the way,
well, we were sharing the back line. The guitar players were using there, but I reckon they must have had box amps. Ringo had that lovely little big kit, and playing away. And of course, they never mic'd up the drums in those days. They were just totally as they were. They might have had some mic up somewhere up high, but I had to play very loud because the band were pretty loud, and I was bashing away. And all of a sudden, I looked down, and I'd gone right through his snare drum. And I was really embarrassed. I thought, oh God, what am I going to do? Breaking Ringo's. But I was okay. I mean, it was quite a laugh afterwards. I mean, Ringo shook his fist at me as a joke, and the roadie just changed his skin, and that was it. There was no problem.
Yeah, he was able to still play, or he had to kind of tune his approach a little bit.
Oh yes, I mean, they were all real pros. And stuff. Yeah. It was good. It was big.
Yeah, I think you mentioned this in your book, and this is a story that I feel like I'm surprised you didn't go into more detail in the book about, but you were on a plane, a Boeing 707, and you were throwing paper airplanes and and messing around and everything, and then the plane starting to take off, and the tire blew. Like, I mean, that seemed like they're going a couple hundred miles an hour probably by that point, like, right? Was that pretty traumatic?
Yeah, it was very odd. I know something happened when we took off, but we didn't quite know because we were flying all the time, and we were just messing around with these little model paper planes, pretending to crash them and everything, and then when they came in, they said, "Well, we've got a blown tire," and we thought, "Oh no, we must have maybe created that by messing up." Some sort of weird,
the energy from the paper planes, right? Yeah,
magic. So we thought, oh, we're never going to do that again. We learned our lesson.
Yeah. Did you switch over to a different plane? Like, was there a pause period? Like, I mean, did everything work? Everything worked out okay? Obviously, right? So
Yeah, they landed. They managed to land in the end. Yeah, we landed, but I think that was we got to our destination. We weren't traveling any further, wherever it was. I don't remember. Somewhere in the Midwest.
Yeah, yeah,
Funny.
yeah. Um, David Bowie did kind of covered "I Wish You Would," and tell me, did you know Bowie? Had you ever met him? What did that mean for him when he covered that song?
No, we didn't know him, but I gathered he used to come to our gigs when we played at the Marquee. It was quite a packed sort of crowd, and I guess he used to come and watch us. Same as Phil Collins, I think. Phil told me, I know you came to watch you, but I never met David, so I don't know. But he did Wish You Would, and it was quite funny, his version of Genie, because it sounds so much like Keith, you know. he's
Yeah,
really he's really got Keith's voice and the harmonica style, the way he played it. Uh, it's good, but it was nice that he did those songs. I mean, it's very gratifying for us.
oh, totally. I never got to see him perform live, but my favorite concert of all time was a celebration of his life, like a couple months after he died. It was led by Gary Oldman, the actor, and a bunch of musicians. I mean, there were like 70 musicians, like, and it was 3.5 hours of Bowie music. You know, I mean, it was just incredible. You know,
Was that in New York?
it was in San Francisco actually, and they built a tour off of it afterwards. But this is one of the first two shows. They did one in LA and then one in San Francisco, right after that.
Yes, he did. He did some great songs. I mean, he really did. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I mean, genius. And Dark Star, like when that came out, like right in line with when he died. I mean, I listened to that so many times. It was just, it was incredible.
And he sort of planned his death, didn't he? He sort of
He,
he had it all worked
yeah,
out.
it's a way of saying, hey, look, I'm in control of this till the end, and cancer, it may take me, but it didn't win. Right? It kind of felt like, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're in control. It's great. It's a good attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think with my wife, we always thought there was going to be a miracle. We never gave up. We always thought, oh, that you might have a spontaneous healing.
You never know, right? But just the timing just worked out perfectly for him. So,
It's a horrible thing. It's an awful thing. Terrible.
oh, for
Yeah.
sure, for sure. So in 1980s, you built Box of Frogs, and that was kind of a partial Yardbirds reunion. Tell me about the dynamic of Box of Frogs and how that came about.
Yeah, that was the thing that came together very slowly. It sort of came around when we Paul Samuel Smith, Chris Dreyer, and myself, we got together and we did a Yardbird show at the Marquee Club. It was their 20th anniversary, and we did a couple of nights, and we got a couple of other people in to play with us. And then we gradually started to write songs, and then we thought, oh, let's go in the studio. And I think it started off, the idea was to do an EP, just 4 tracks or something, and then we started doing more and more, and then it just gathered moss. It got bigger and bigger, and then we did the whole album. Jeff Beck came in and did a couple of tracks, and it was great fun. It was like a big party.
Yeah.
We had a big party for every track. It was good.
And would you say that kind of paved the way for bringing the Yardbirds back as the Yardbirds, like bringing that back in the 90s?
I think so. I think it reminded people, and it was a shame in a way that we never went on tour. It was just a studio project, because some of the guys didn't really want to tour. They didn't want to play live. They were doing other things. But it did pave the way gradually to, I guess, the Hall of Fame, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in '92 was
Yeah,
the
what was
thing.
that? What was the Hall of Fame experience like for you? I mean, was it surreal a bit?
A little bit, because we've been, we hadn't been together, and we've been sort of almost out of the business for a while. And then all of a sudden seeing all these great people, Carlos Santana and BB King and people, Keith Richards, all these people, they were all at the evening, and then get inducted with Johnny Cash, and we used to play his songs at school.
Yeah,
Jimi Hendrix, I mean, it's like a dream, isn't it?
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I'm sure you talked to Johnny Cash, right? Like, was that an
Yeah,
amazing experience?
that's amazing. Yeah, it was great. Yeah, and I think I was part of the jam. They did it. They didn't organise them very well. They just had a sort of a jam. Whoever wanted to play, and Johnny Cash was there playing, and I think he did All Along the Watchtower or something like that.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Good.
Yeah. Do you remember the first time? Would you remember where you were the first time you heard "For Your Love" on the radio?
Oh, probably. Yeah, I don't actually. Might have been travelling to a show. I heard it on the car radio. We used to listen to stuff on the car, in the car going up to a show. So probably that's where it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Must have been amazing, right? Like, you're like, this is it,
I know. Suddenly you see yourself on the radio, and or you watch yourself on TV. It's quite amazing. Or from nowhere, all of a sudden you're on the television or the radio. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's special.
And that first US tour that you had, I mean, was that a big jump for you guys? I mean, was that the big, like, breaking point for you?
Well, in a way, yeah, going to the US was always a dream for us, because the US was always special. We'd seen all the movies and all the blues music and all the jazz and everything else, and going to the US was fantastic. But I think the first tour, yeah, we had a few visa problems, and in the end, we didn't play very much. We only did a couple of gigs, but we followed up. The next tour started to do well, and then we did a lot of tours.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was always great fun, and we did Shapes of Things actually on a US tour. We did that in Chess Records, Chess Studios in Chicago, which was great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great to be, where they did all the blues songs.
Sure. Tell me a little bit about the differences in your approach between your solo music and writing for Yardbirds. I mean, you put out a handful of solo albums now. How do you approach that? How do you go into those solo albums?
Solo is different because I'm not a real rock blues singer. I'm more of a folk singer, so I have to write the songs for myself, and they're not really Yardbirds. There's a couple of songs that I've done solo versions that Yardbirds have done as well. There's one called "Dream Within a Dream," but usually they're quite soft and more folky, and I have to get the right musicians as well. But I was pleased with the last record because I had Terry Brown involved as producer, and he did a lot of Rush albums in Toronto. And he's an English guy, and he's great to work with, and he got a really good sound on the voice. And we had a lot of fun doing that.
Yeah, I know you have some Rush connections. Did you ever play with them? Ever tour with Rush?
No, never. No, I went to see them once in Toronto. I went to see them play. And Alex actually played one of the tracks on my album, and he's a great guy. He's a big Yardbirds fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very cool. And last year you put out a live album, you know, for the Yardbirds, and it's kind of a culmination of a couple of different shows from the '60s. How do you choose the songs, and were those tapes that you just held on to for that long and remastered?
Yeah, I don't know where they came from, those tapes. They were. Are you talking about the repertoire stuff?
Live in France? Yeah.
Yeah, so the repertoire record label. They're in Germany, and they're very keen. They're very keen on the Yardbirds, and they're very good. They do really good packages, and they run all the stuff. They find the stuff, I don't know, through fans and stuff. You know, they find it all over the place, and then they run it by us and say, "Oh, what do you think of this? What do you think of that?" And we say yes or no, and you know, we have a good relationship with them.
Yeah, yeah. Jim, what would you say is some of the biggest things you've taken away? What's some of the biggest lessons you've learned, or, you know, your most memorable experiences, you know, from all these years of making music and a lifetime of doing that, right?
Well, of course, I guess the Hall of Fame was a great night, suddenly to be recognised for what we did. You know, recognised in quite a big way. That was great, and we've had some great times along the way. You know, some great gigs. I think probably with Jeff Beck were the great ones. You know, probably lots of awful ones as well with him, but we had some great ones with him when everyone clicked and everyone played together well, and maybe in a little club, you know, and there was a nice atmosphere. And yeah, there's been some great memories. And I always feel very lucky that I've managed to keep going, you know, and keep playing. And I had such a good time, so many good memories.
Yeah, I know you have a couple of tour dates planned for next year. Do you plan on expanding that? Do you plan on getting out and doing a bunch more shows? What does that look like now for you? I know there's a lot that's unpredictable.
Well, yes, it is unpredictable. Doing the October dates, which were basically up the East Coast, you know, they were on the east side, so we might add to them, and you never know, it might be another tour next year. We'll see. We're looking into that sort of thing all the time, you know, see how things open up.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Jim, I want to thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it. You know, not Steve Jones from the Sex Pistols, but but hopefully you enjoyed our chat. So
no problem at all. Very good, Steve.
Very cool. Well, take care and be safe, and hopefully see you out here on the you know, in the Bay Area in the not too distant future. Okay.
Okay. Where are you? You're in Napa Valley, are you? I
am. Yeah. Here, I'll show you. I'm on a vineyard myself. So.
Look at that. That's fabulous.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful.
There we go. I got the camera.
The sun is out.
Yeah, exactly. It's a nice day. There's nothing to complain about out here, I'll tell you, you know, and things are pretty safe out here, so we're good here too. So.
All right, Steve.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Nice chatting again, Jim. You have a great day, okay?
Okay, thanks.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.
That was the interview with Jim from the Yardbirds. And Jens, that takes us to the final segment on the program. What is it?
Well, Steve, it's time to talk about some music news, our little segment where we discuss what's going on in the world of music.
That is right. We each have a couple of stories to share. And Jens, I think it's important that we start with the most important story. I mean, this is one that's, you know, I wouldn't say it's surprising, but it's one that you'll really appreciate, and it's about Marilyn Manson.
Oh, it is. It's not the one that you wanted me to share.
No, that's going to be valuable. That's going to be a valuable conversation. But
maybe that'll be the second most important.
that's why it'll be second. Is these stories are in order of importance, apparently, right? Well, Jens, I need you to know that Marilyn Manson reportedly had a bad girls room in his West Hollywood apartment.
I don't know what that means.
Well, I'll tell you. So it's been reported that Marilyn Manson had a soundproof room in his West Hollywood apartment that he referred to as the bad girls room. In an in-depth report by Rolling Stone based on court documents and new interviews, it's detailed that Marilyn would banish his various girlfriends to this solitary confinement cell used to psychologically torture women. According to Ashley Walters, a former assistant suing Warner for sexual assault and other charges, Warner, that's Marilyn Manson's real name, Brian Warner, always had a joking, bragging tone when he told people about the room. Ryan Brown, another former assistant, had denied ever seeing any woman confined in the so-called bad girls room in the 8 years he worked for Warner, but said it was common knowledge. That's what everybody called it. Ashley Morgan Smithline, who is suing him for sexual assault and unlawful imprisonment, among other charges, told Rolling Stone that that Marilyn Manson repeatedly forced her to stay in the space for hours at a time when they were dating. At first, he made it sound cool, she said. Then he made it sound very punitive. Even if I was screaming, no one would hear me. First you fight, and he enjoys the struggle. I learned to not fight it because that was giving him what he wanted. I just went somewhere else in my head.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say. I mean, before we even get into this crazy room, one question is, why would you date Marilyn Manson? Like, how do you even get the motivation to do that, more or less?
So
step inside his house.
So this is, and this is the, another question that I would ask, that, kind of on the heels of that, what I'm thinking about as I'm reading it, right? And I don't want to victim blame or anything along those lines, but do you go back after one incident of this?
Right. You would think no, never again. But I wouldn't be surprised if people have.
He's facing 4 sexual assault lawsuits after his former partner, Evan Rachel Wood, among other women, publicly made allegations against him in February. So there's a bunch of people on board with these allegations.
Holy shit. Are any of them, do any of them admit to going back?
I mean, if she's labeled as his girlfriend and she was put in this and multiple times, it sounds like, right? Like, Manson's denied all allegations.
Rachel Wood, she's an actress. She's the one on
Game of Thrones.
No.
There's a Game of Thrones actor, Esme Bianco, who sued Manson also for sexual assault, physical abuse, and human trafficking.
Wow.
And he's denied all the allegations, claiming that his accusers were cynically and dishonestly seeking to monetize and exploit the #MeToo movement by launching a coordinated attack against him. So, I guess it's still in the courts.
I'm speechless. Westworld is what I was thinking of, HBO's
Westworld.
Yeah. She was the main character. Jesus Christ, man.
Crazy shit, huh?
That is just one mentality I cannot understand.
No. I mean, it's... Again, I started with it not being a surprise. This is a guy who, 20 years ago, who claimed, who, from my understanding, had ribs removed so he could perform fellatio on himself, right? Like, this is a guy who's not well, right?
So I'm thinking about, potential girlfriends, and kind of what they have on their list of people that they want to date, so they have like a, I like this, I don't like that list, right? So when they're out looking for, somebody to go out with, they can check off their little list, what the hell? So, on the list is had surgery done to himself so he could perform fellatio on himself. Like, I'm really into that. I need a guy who did that.
Yes. I mean, I'd rather him do it than me do it. So, right? Like, that's the mentality or what? Like, I don't know, man. Can't explain
anyway, I got something for you.
Take us to a lighter story, would you? A lighter one?
Yeah. Okay. So, Steve, you know bands like Rage Against the Machine, right? And Tool.
Yes.
Well, there's a New York collective group called Brass Against.
Okay.
And they've made quite a name for themselves by, doing covers of songs, from Rage and Tool and others as well. And I mean, it's not, if you can get out there and if you can find a band that's really, really, really good at doing covers and they make a name for themselves, why not? Why not go and be like, yeah, freaking awesome, just have an absolutely killer time, right? Especially if you're really up close to the stage. And you're there at this stage. You're looking at the you're looking at the vocalist. Her name is Sophia. And before you know it, Sophia is like pissing on your face.
Oh, okay. Not something that I've ever had happen to me at a concert, I'd say, but
No, I think the worst thing that ever happened to me, I don't know, this might not be a bad thing depending on what you're into, but I'm just going to say I think the worst thing that ever happened to me, close to the stage, was just losing my sandals and trying to figure out where the hell they were hours later.
You've lost
but, oh my God,
clothing, yeah.
To get pissed on in the face.
Yeah.
There's even video footage for those of you that want to check this out. So the vocalist, complained several times about having to pee. And then she secured a volunteer from the crowd to serve as her toilet.
And I think to really understand it, you have to watch the video. I mean,
so this volunteer knew it was coming. It wasn't just a surprise.
Oh no, this is not a surprise. This is a willing participant. There is a police report as more details emerge, but this gentleman laid down on the stage. She squatted over him, pulled down her pants, and let it flow.
Let it flow.
Yeah.
They say Sophia got carried away.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, I guess that was, yeah. So anytime, somebody says to you, hey, Steve, have a good time, make sure you don't get carried away, they're specifically talking about make sure you don't, piss on someone.
So I have no knowledge of this band, but I do have knowledge of Sophia's girlfriend, who is Jess King, the Peloton instructor.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
Do they piss on each other?
I don't know. I mean, I would imagine this is probably not the first person she's pissed on. I mean, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say it. So
I've got questions, but you know what? I don't think I care enough to ask them.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a thing that people do. I don't know. I don't want to know about it. Ignorance is bliss, man.
Yeah, I don't know many people that would go to a concert and be prepared to be peed on, but it happens. So
Oh
it is what
my
it is.
God. All right, what do you got for us?
More positive story here, Jens. This is one that I saw the other day and was really interesting. I was really proud. We've talked time to time about Nandy Bushell. Do you remember Nandy Bushell?
Vaguely.
You don't remember Nandy Bushell? Nandy Bushell, the 11-year-old English girl who challenged Dave Grohl to a draw.
Right, of course.
Yes, and badass as she is, and her brother also really, really great guitarist. But so she put out a video, music video, where she's on two instruments in it. Well, she's a singer, but she also drums in it. But she made the video with Tom Morello's son, I believe, who is also around her age. So they put out a video kind of discussing, kind of tackling climate change, so to speak, right?
All right.
And the video has been viewed about 1 million times on social media. But also what was really interesting recently is some of the recognition from the video. Nandy said, after learning about climate change at school, I wanted to help make a difference. And the video was praised by Simon Pegg and Lenny Kravitz, but more interestingly, Barack Obama posted about the video. He'd been in Glasgow for the COP26 Climate Change Summit. He said in his speech at the conference, to all the young people out there, I want you to stay angry. I want you to stay frustrated. And on his Facebook page, he posted a picture of the Rise Up music video and wrote to his 55 million followers, many social movements have been started and sustained by young people. Nandy and Roman used music as a way to share their compelling message about why we need to take action on climate change. And Nandy, of course, was beside herself, freaking excited, even though she's not an American. I mean, quite a big recognition, right?
Right.
She said, "This is incredible." I just always think of everything she says is so loud and excited. I am so proud you shared the song Roman and I wrote to help raise awareness of climate change on Facebook. Amazing.
Nice accent. Yeah, at first I thought you were going to say she hooked up with Greta and taught her how to play the drums.
No, that didn't really happen. I'm sorry. I don't have that.
All right.
I don't have that story to share. So
maybe it'll happen someday. You know, if she gets that into climate change and activism, they're bound to team up.
It could happen. It could happen. You have one more story for us, Jens?
I do.
Now, I'll preface this by saying this is there's an album that you, as a fan of an artist, didn't realize was released. Do tell.
Yeah, that's speaks to my true, fan nature of the band ABBA, who is a fantastic band. That is a fantastic band, and I guess this is 40 years, right? 40 years have gone by since they released their last album. And
would you say this one is long awaited?
I wasn't ever awaiting another album from them, and if they want to release another album, well, whatever, they can. But the nostalgia is about their original music and the time that we were living in back then. I mean, disco was fucking awesome. They had incredible hits, one after the next. So when you told me about this the other day, I told my phone to go ahead and start playing this album. I listened to it twice. And the whole time I'm like, what am I listening to? I feel like this is a soundtrack to some Disney movie. And I'm like imagining elves and fairies like running around. And this sounds like ABBA, but I don't know. Why, right?
Why?
But I was really surprised, I've got to say, at how good their voices were.
Okay.
They still performed really well. It's just the music didn't really speak to me. So, here the article says about the album Voyage, no thank you for the music. which speaks to one of their songs. It goes, "Thank you for the music."
Oh, really?
The song I'm singing. Yeah, it was one of their big hits. So, all right. So after 40 years, the makers of the once sparkling pop are back, but the glamour promised by this album's two terrific singles goes horribly unfulfilled. I agree with that. I'm not saying it's bad or anything. It's just, you're like, okay.
It's just not good.
Yeah, right. Like, next. So let's see. What else can we say about this? Maybe we've said enough.
I mean, it sounds pretty cut and dry. Is that? I mean, your thoughts on are not too excited. Would you fly to Germany or Sweden to go see ABBA play this album?
Only if it was an absolute certainty that they were going to play their, a lot of their hits too.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if they're kind of using this album as maybe, you know, to go touring or something, you know, maybe they're just so sick of their own shit they wanted to play some new stuff, but then, you know, throw in some of the, you know, classics as well. Yeah, but I'm sure tickets would be impossible to get and outrageously expensive.
Right.
So
Well,
yeah, I think that's all we have to say about that.
based on your raving review, I'm not running out to see them or to listen to this at all in any capacity. So I will go ahead and move on.
Right.
Now,
Yeah.
now,
I mean, it's
well,
definitely worth a listen if you were an Alba fan back in the day, but otherwise, forget it.
I'll forget it. It's forgotten.
It's forgotten.
What is not forgotten, Jens, is the Dave Grohl of the Foo Fighters, and how he continues to do amazing things, right? And so the story I have for you today, Jens, is that he has unveiled a horror comedy movie called Studio 666, and so I think A Hard Day's Night of the Living Dead, with laughs among the scares and splatter, and you've got a handle on Studio 666. Dave Grohl and his Foo Fighters bandmates, they star in a film shot in secret about what happens when the legendary rock band rents an Encino mansion steeped in grisly rock and roll history to record their 10th album. Trouble is, Dave Grohl is creatively blocked, and when evil forces in the house sink into his consciousness, the creative juices begin flowing, but so does the blood.
Oh my God, dude, this is terrifying. This is freaking me out. I actually need to go find my wife and urinate on her. I will be right back, but you keep on talking about the Dave Grohl story. I'll be listening.
Okay. So we got to know, can the Foo Fighters complete the album with the band still alive to tour? So Open Roads has acquired the rights to the movie worldwide, and the distributor set a wide theatrical release in 2,000 plus theaters on February 25th. So along with Dave Grohl and bandmates Taylor Hawkins, Nate Mendel, Pat Smear, Chris Shiflett, and Rami Jeffy, who play themselves. The cast includes Whitney Cummings, comedian, so that should be interesting. Leslie Grossman, Will Forte, oh, that's awesome, Jenna Ortega, and Jeff Garlin. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of great comedy in this. So really interested to see it. The pick is directed by BJ McDonnell, and the international release date will be set soon by Open Road CEO Tom Otenberg and the Foo Fighters. So it sounds like a lot of the theaters are going to have it beginning toward the end of February. I'm looking forward to it, of course. It's based on a story by Grohl, and so pretty excited to see that coming. Also, the Foo Fighters are going to have an artist series Peloton ride that comes out tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to doing that as well.
Fantastic. Always good to have a good Dave Grohl story. One thing I would recommend is before you urinate on someone, just let them know that you're going to do that before you actually start doing it.
Speaking from personal experience. Got it.
Personal experience. Yeah, I think it's just kind of it's a respectful thing to do.
Yes.
Just give them a heads up.
I think she took him as a volunteer. So I think
That's
he was
right.
well aware. I don't think there's any lawsuit that could happen based on the angle. If you haven't watched the video, you could watch the video. It is not safe for work, of course. But it is.
Don't start playing it during a meeting or something like that.
No.
That's get fired.
That's what it is. So, all right. So that is our show for today. Want to again thank Jim from the Yardbirds for taking the time.
Thanks, Jim.
We don't currently have a show lined up for next week right now, so could have one. We'll see how it goes. But subscribe to the podcast. Check us out on YouTube. All the fun stuff to get the latest episodes. That's our show. For all of us here at Concert Pipeline, that's Jen Schipple.
And that is Steve, not from the Sex Pistols, Jones.
We'll catch you next time.
Later.
Oh, I guess it's stop recording.